So all right. So let's talk about comedy.
Okay. Let's.
Anyway, what is this? Because you did a great thing for I think several years at the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, the State of the Industry address, which was hilarious. What do you think the state of comedy is right now?
Well, I think the state of, well, first of all, when you have a Mr. James Corden who they don't even know who he is.
I honestly don't either. He does the fish sticks, right?
No, I used to make fun. I used to go with this, make the speech. Now nobody even knows the references.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I love the show B-Roll with Carson Daly. Have you seen that show? All right, so Carson Daly doesn't have time to be on his own show anymore. He doesn't do the interviews on his show. He throws to comedians who put their own segments together. Why are you not outraged by this? Then we have the comedians. Josh Gad is literally he's in everything. He's in everything. I opened up my mailbox this morning. Josh Gad popped out.
He physically popped out?
Have you seen the comedians?
Yes.
It's behind the scenes of vaudeville, is what it is. And Josh Gad said that Billy Crystal is an encyclopedia of comedy. He didn't say that he's a 1957 World Book. Adam Sandler, his Adam Sandler movie. They walked off the set of that movie without. Even the writers of F Troop sent them a note and said they don't even know what Adam Sandler movie. You don't know what Adam Sandler movie's in production? Hello.
Were you a fan of F? By the way,
no. I'd like to drown in my own sorrow.
Do you,
sometimes non sequiturs don't work.
Do you I mean, I would assume that you would agree that.
I hate Ricky Gervais. Is that what you?
Ricky Gervais.
No, you were onto something.
No. Ricky Gervais. Give me some Ricky Gervais.
Okay, Ricky Gervais spends half of his Twitter feed talking about how what an atheist he is. Although he doesn't even understand the basic tenets of monotheism. Someone goes, "What God do you believe in?" Like we've already settled that whatever it is that people are sensing, it's all the same thing, viewed through different cultures. But this idiot doesn't even know what he's talking about. So half of his feed's about that, and then the other half of his feed is about how he doesn't care what people say about him. Half of his tweets. And I want to know, can I get a price on Netflix without Derek? What's my...
One more time. Give me one more.
Without Derek. Better than without Derek. What's the price without Derek? The joke's up there, Dan.
Oh, and you're bringing it down?
Yeah. Without Derek.
Is it like frosting, and we're like in a gingerbread house, and you're?
I'm painting a picture for the people.
Oh, okay.
And then always, if it doesn't get a big enough laugh, you say something in between the jokes, like pretty frightening stuff, people. I think I'm making you sick.
No. I'm such a bad interviewer that sometimes if you look over at me, I'm thinking about what I should ask you next.
Is this not making you comfortable? Let's do this. Now you said you think you agree with
I was going to say I would imagine you might agree or would tweak this observation that there was a certain point in time when a certain kind of I always call it the apple on the teacher's desk school of comedy.
Fallon.
See, I mean, and then this is
let me finish if you like.
Lay it on me.
Yes, I will say yes. Fallon fully represents that. It's the mistaking fun for funny, and it's also the sort of like kind of like a comedian's job isn't to upset people, which I don't agree with. I feel like a comedian should not be allowed to be pals with a politician. I think you should. I don't like you should definitely feel that there's like a red flag happening there. If
Ted Cruz is a nice man and we hang out. We don't talk. We play golf. We don't talk politics. Funnier here, funnier there. No, I know what you mean, though. But also, that's why Letterman was so amazing, was because he was himself.
Right.
It's funny when you're yourself, curmudgeons.
Yeah.
Andy Rooney is still complaining about his coffin. He's like, why are my eyebrows still growing? Why didn't I get myself cremated?
I don't think eyebrows should keep growing after you die. I think they should stop.
I don't don't know why there's a top on the coffin.
Why is there a lid on here? No one's gonna open this up. Look at me.
Where am I gonna go? I got nowhere to be.
I don't need more lining.
I understand they needed to put my body in, but they could have welded it shut. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it out loud, I guess a lid makes sense. Goodbye. I'm dead Andy Rooney. I found my peace.
I would love it. Now, if 60 Minutes was edgy, they would have a dead Andy Rooney at the end of every episode.
Is it like I perceived the shift toward the apple on the desk philosophy of comedy as coming around Chris Farley's death, because I felt like it was just one too many for everybody, and then there was a certain like takeover of like, okay, now let's have the activities committee.
What do you mean apple on the desk? I don't understand.
I just mean like, hey, who's your favorite student? It's me.
What, were you homeschooled?
You know.
Woo! Boom!
You know how in high school there were the kids that put together the pep rally? And they would like, and then Mr. Simmons from chemistry would come out and he would like lip sync to an Elvis song, and then Jeremy would come out, who's famous for his mullet, and then they'd cut his mullet because he said he'd cut it if they didn't win homecoming. And it's like everyone's like, woo, woo, woo! It's like this fusion of popularity and comedy, but it's not really comedy. Like the kids that are smoking joints under the bleachers, like they're not all funny either. But like a comedian should come from the dirt, right? They shouldn't come from like popular like crops of people. And I felt like the edginess and that association with drugs, it's always been there, and it's always been like sort of a sad but realistic like kind of thing. Is it's like comedians are terrible, tortured people. They're in a lot of
shaking my head.
they're in a lot of pain. They self-medicate, and like so there's like as with musicians, there's just always been this kind of like, okay, this comedian like kind of like he's allowed to say shit that no one else is allowed to say, and he catches flack for it, but he doesn't give a fuck, and that's the comedian station, and he overdosed, and like
it's not no one specific we're talking about.
Also not pro overdose.
Yeah, you can't get upset at a hypothetical comedian.
Maybe it's my like I tipped a glass of milk, I guess is maybe, or like
Eddie Schmadoopy drowned in a pool of his own cocaine. What?
What's H.P. Manubi?
Eddie Schmaboopy, I said. I'm not good at examples.
Henny Schmaboopy.
Anyway, I was like,
he had his own pool of cocaine?
You know, a lot of times it's not what... Some people say funny things funny, but funny people say funny things. Have you ever heard that one? That used to go... I used to hear that one all the time. Like, is that a bromide?
Oh, yeah.
Some people say funny things.
Right. Comics. It was comics and comedians.
Comedians say funny things. Comics say
things funny.
Say things funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Dumb. Right.
And Adam Carolla's racist. I didn't say you said that.
Andy Kindler is saying you guys said
you
that.
did it.
You guys
Why would you bring that? But I'll tell you something.
Your silence is consent.
That's right. You think you like racism. You're pro-racism. You sons of. When I was back there and you said you weren't a comic, right?
Right.
So, okay. Now, this is. I mean, he is a comedian, but the idea. Like these people like Carolla, or they all of a sudden think, or Gervais is another example. Gervais thinks he's the funniest stand-up comedian in the world. What is wrong with your ego that you think because you've done stand-up 15 or 20 times? And it's like to have humility. You have humility. It's like you know you're funny, but you're not.
Right.
You know there's a certain. And these people, and I can't complete sentences. What do you think?
But yeah, you and Patton Oswalt sit there and it's like fucking like you work for 10 years and the result is like a strong 15. I think I just insulted you guys. It's a strong 11. No, but I mean it's fucking like, I mean, you torture yourselves and you work it and blah blah blah, and it's like this podcasting age is a great thing, but I sense like with Kumail Nanjiani too, it's like I'm about to go on stage and I'll go like, Or Duncan Trussell too has like been working on the road in the last time, and he's sort of become a podcast star. But it's like his podcast audience is way bigger than his comedian following, I think. So if he goes on tour with his podcast, he draws these huge crowds for no effort at all. But if he's like just touring as a stand-up, it's sort of like, oh, he does stand-up. And I remember saying to Duncan before going on stage, I was like, are you mad about the last 20 years that we spent? Right. And he's like, yeah, you know what, I am. Yeah, that's really fucking enraging. Because he's a very happy guy.
That's a good Duncan Trussell.
But anyways, I don't know. I was babbling about
and there's
that.
no value. And my thing is, there's no value judgment. But it's like that. Did you see that thing where Ricky Gervais was on with like Chris Rock and those guys and Louis C.K. and they were all talking about comedy, and the fact that Ricky Gervais he's a narcissist. He had a thing on Twitter once. Was my favorite example of someone who's so full of himself. He said, "This is the only trophy hunting I believe in," and because he's doing animal rights things, and he's standing in front of a case with his trophies in it.
No.
And I forced him to change his Twitter bio. I absolutely am convinced of it because his Twitter bio said multi-BAFTA winning, 16 Emmy deserving writer, producer, actor, singer. I mean, literally. And he goes, and a one-trick pony with a smiley face at the end. He doesn't. You can't be a comedian and not realize and not have any self-awareness. And I love the original Office. Boy, is my face red. I guess Stephen Merchant was responsible. He is that character.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the guy who played?
Merchant, you think Merchant is whatever Ricky Gervais' character is?
Maybe he has soul of some kind. But Ricky Gervais is that character.
David Brent.
He's not playing.
Yeah, interesting. So okay. But
he meant interesting.
I know, I really did mean it.
Yeah.
I
say intriguing.
It's not a competition.
That's how you look at it. Score one for Kindler. Kindler won.
I guess we've already circled this. I kind of wanted to ask you this because you would be the only person that I would trust with this to answer this question in an edifying way. No pressure, but also it's kind of a dumb question. But so don't answer it. But
who is Copernicus?
Doctors have this sort of central oath. They have the Hippocratic oath. They can sum up their whole shtick in one thing. Like, I gotta heal people. That's what I do. That's my gimmick. I'm a doctor, and like whether I work on toes or noses or a little bit of both, I'm not supposed to do any harm. It's
hard to find a good toe and nose doctor these days.
Now we have to hold. The doctors have an oath because we had to we had to shake them down for one at some point because otherwise they could just be like
the leeches and
cut off one of your arms and see if that helps. Maybe we should have a do no harm thing because Dr. Mengele's got to stop it
before they're.
I can't reference Dr. Mengele. He's not alive.
It's not a.
Are they pro Dr. Mengele?
They're anti-irony. This generation. They're just kind of like I don't know. There's no such thing as context because bad people abuse the concepts of context and irony.
Yes, that's true.
To be genuinely
horrible.
Bad people. They say, so then we go like, what about context? What about irony? And they're like, I heard that from Old Man Carruthers, and he's racist. So you're racist too. Good logic, you little fucking hologram shithead.
This is gonna be me in 6 months. Look, you atheist piece of shit.
Is there a comedic oath? What would it be if there was one? Obviously, there isn't one because there's a lot of like bad approaches to comedy. Like me personally observing, it's just like I don't think you should be doing comedy to get applause or even necessarily smiles. I think that comedy definitely heals more people and makes them feel better in the long run. But okay, so I've always babbled about this, but it's important. The first joke. This is a theory, an anthropological theory. The first joke that we hear is peekaboo, and it's half terror. Your mom is abusing your infantile instinct to shriek in terror when your mom's face goes away, and then she's going, "I'm in on it too. Death is a joke," and you're like, "I don't know what the fuck this world is. This is insane." So half of a comedian's job is, if you're dwelling in the world of comedy, you get one foot in the river Styx, you know? Well, then you'd forget everything. All right, ancient Greek majors.
Maybe if your mother wasn't holding a knife while she was doing it.
But you get.
Forget about it. Forget about it.
You're in that.
Not going to you anymore.
I want to hear more ancient Greek Catskill comedy.
Oh yeah.
Easy, Sisyphus. Work a little harder.
I can't think of one Greek name.
Hey, Tantalus! I have a mic. You can't reach your beer. God has a plan.
Icarus, Andy, Icarus.
Maybe you shouldn't name your comedy duo The Iliad and the Odyssey. I don't know. Is that even Greek?
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the kind of people like, yes, old man. Read something. I do. Here's my oath. Yeah, I do have an oath. Here's the thing. The thing I think I hate more than anything else, and I'm sure you agree with this, is when people say, "Hey, if they laugh, people are laughing, it's funny." Well, that's just objectively wrong. You can't say comedy's not subjective in the sense
That's like
that
saying if people are sneezing, you're sick,
right,
or allergic, or anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to sneeze.
We may disagree on what's funny, but it doesn't mean that because people can get someone to laugh, it's funny. Because that was what got me where I wrote this hack handbook, which still is available on my website, where nothing ever changes. Who's sick and tired of all these different dates? So
they keep changing them.
But I don't know what I was saying. What was I saying?
Your oath, the hack handbook.
Yeah, but what was the sentence before that?
You said you had an oath.
Oh well, okay. So if you're in a club and I say, are you working tonight? Well, get your feet off the stage. Like in the 80s, any comic could get a laugh doing that, and the crowd would laugh. You've never heard it before. So it's up to the comedian to take the responsibility that he knows that his material is original, that he's not doing something hack. But a lot of, and like when I was in the 90s, when they had the first quote alternative scene since the late 70s, which is the real alternative explosion with Letterman and all those people. Like we were all, people like me were all squeezed out of, like Janine Garofalo, all these people. We couldn't play comedy clubs because it was just filled with hacks who just played to the audience. So I think the oath is that you have to go with what you believe is funny. And for me, the big breakthrough, but I don't know if this is an oath, the big breakthrough came 23 years in when I realized that I thought I was always saying what was on my mind. But I realized I wasn't. I was going to like stock things about it, like I hate the crowd or I hate myself, and that was the big breakthrough. And so that's kind of my oath is when things go bad, just to really try and be in the moment.
Right.
But I don't know if that's
just
an
step
oath.
back and and remind yourself that if you're not making yourself laugh, if you're not saying something that you genuinely feel is funny, then you could still be wrong. You could say something that you genuinely think is funny and find out that you're racist on Monday night, and then you like read about it for 3 days and go come back on Thursday like, you know what, I was racist on Monday and I found out. But unless you're saying what you genuinely think is funny, you're never ever gonna be funny, because you could make people laugh. You could by going like
for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this got milk formula everyone's using. I'm gonna say got cum, and see, I got a chuckle.
And for example, dick jokes, and that's why you can't make any rules, because dick jokes are an easy way to get people to laugh. But then there's always one person, like any rule you would make, and then you see Dave Attell for 10 minutes be the hilarious. No one's funnier than him. You can't make any rules. So that's why when politically correct things come down, or when they went after Colbert, it was so terrible, because obviously we know he's hilarious. But that doesn't mean that I never bought the thing where when you're on stage, it's a magic eraser zone. You can say anything you want. A comedian should have a conscience. You should be able to say if you think you're wrong, I was wrong. Right. I hate that the comics are saying, or many of them say, you should never apologize. You should never. You should always evaluate what you're doing.
Right. I thought it was really refreshing. Do you remember when Natasha Leggero did the thing about, she did some Pearl Harbor joke?
Oh, about they're so old they can't eat food?
But then her anti-apology, like it's a case-by-case basis is what you're saying, but like that was such a fucking great day for me. I had a spring in my step, like, because she said, I'm not sorry, and I shouldn't be, and it's not defiance, and it's just like, this is not, because we are over-apologizing, blah, blah, blah. But what you're saying is sometimes, know, but you don't have to have that hard line. A comedian does. We can't go like, we're comedians. We're not going to apologize. It's like I've been doing this podcast. I talk 2 hours a week. I have no material. I'm babbling. I'm drunk. I have like bruised people, and I have been told that I have bruised them on Twitter, and I have then even in that moment gone like, go fuck yourself, because I'm human and I don't like being told that I did something wrong. But like inevitably, I'm like, I did something wrong. I
think that's really cool.
I could have done that differently, but I didn't because I wasn't thinking the right way.
And not as a PR thing. You just want to do. You just want to.
Oh no, it's a PR thing.
Oh sure.
But no.
Yeah, my people say the same thing.
But speaking of PR, I mean, to take it into this area, but part of your persona is the reason that we know that that you really follow that credo is because in the brief time you've been up here, you have. I mean, I also do not like Bill Maher. I also was thinking of Jimmy Fallon when you said I was thinking of Jimmy Fallon. I also I didn't know Adam Carolla was racist, but I'm willing to believe you. You go there as the girls say.
I do go there, and the thing is, everything. Like, okay, so I have a joke. Like I say Jay Leno has a car that runs on the energy of all the people's dreams that he's crushed. And I kind of really don't like Jay Leno, but Bill Maher's in a completely different category because I am very sensitive to that people should not hate people based on. I was raised you don't hate people based on their religion.
You know the thing that really pisses me off about Bill Maher is all of his dogmatic stuff. Like he has a religion, and it's atheism, and he's as fundamentalist and dogmatic about that
absolutely
as you could possibly be about any fucking thing else. And now, which would be fine if he were more charming about it. But charm is not what Bill Maher deals in.
It's 9/11. Sorry,
That is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Holy moly.
Andy, we're the only show that people cheer when you go, it's 9/11.
Oh my God. You do that. How do you, sometimes, don't you miss it sometimes? Or you have a second?
Oh, sometimes we miss it. And boy, in the morning, I'm like, God damn it.
But it happens again, like in the AM. It's amazing.
Anyways, all right. Back to the.
There was one time Bill Maher.
One time we did like a sweet, sexy ass R&B song about 9/11.
Yeah.
We were thinking because we should have a tradition at 9/11, but then it started to feel creepy. Because I think the number's funny. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not 3,000 people dying is not funny. I'm against it. I'm against it. The number, the idea of a number being sacred is funny.
They shouldn't have taken down the towers.
No, they should not have.
He clearly doesn't believe that.
They should have counted to 10.
You're right.
If you you know what? Count to 11.
Yeah.
Too soon? 10 too late?
10 is right in between 9 and 11. Right in between them. They just missed 10.
The fear is always that there's someone in the crowd who was a you know what I mean? They're all like, I just had put it behind me, and
I have no idea what you're talking about. As someone who started experimenting with stand-up at 17, right after Jeffrey Dahmer ate everyone in Milwaukee, and when all of the families of his 17 victims were going out to comedy clubs to try to get away from their sorrows, and every comic was like, "Well, it seems like everyone else in the nation thinks this is funny."
Right? Yeah.
Never mind that I live in Milwaukee.
Andy, I'm sure you were doing gigs in the days and weeks after 9/11, because I went to a show about a week and a half after all the shit went down, and Warren Thomas did a set and did the funniest 9/11 joke of all time. But the audience before that, nobody was really quite willing to laugh at anything at all, because the whole country, the whole world was just like in a weird suspension of like nothing's going to be funny for a while. And rightfully so. Like it's very natural. And some guy came on before him and told a bunch of jokes about how his failing acting career, and he's done a bunch of shows that were terrible, and about and he's talking about his career. And then Warren Thomas, who's a great comic who died how many years ago?
About 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, he was a beloved, hilarious guy. And he comes up and his first joke was, "Yeah, man, I saw your demo reel. I haven't seen that many bad pilots since 9/11."
Oh. That is sweet.
And the crowd did not groan. The crowd fucking went into like ecstasy because we needed to fucking say something funny. Not at the expense of what happened. It's just that the world needed somebody to fucking do the comedian's job. It's like, let's all be in this room together and let's all laugh about anything at all.
Yeah, I think that's...
It's a very courageous thing. And there's a great... You never heard the story about Gilbert Godfried?
That I did not want to see... It's a whole long thing, but I had no desire to see the Aristocrats. It's like, in some ways, I'm like an old school guy. Like, I had a fear my parents are going to watch it, and they're going to be watching, something like up the ass into the colon. And I just couldn't understand. But the premise that he had... Tell them what he said.
Well, no, I'm going back to a thing after the Jonestown massacre.
Oh, because he said after 9/11 that he was late for a gig because he had to change planes at the Empire State Building. And then he went into that.
Right.
Then he went into
the crowd groaned, and then he said, "I'm going to horrify you with viscera."
But what's the Jones?
I hope I'm not getting this wrong because this is a story that I'm sure I'm being like going to get the details wrong, but I believe it was Gilbert Godfried at the Fillmore in San Francisco, and from what I've heard, it's one of the greatest openers of all time. And he comes out, and it was like a couple days or so after. And believe me, if I'm getting this wrong, somebody like put online the actual story of this. But this is passed down to me through other comics. The Jonestown Massacre, horrible thing. Another one of those moments where nobody...
We're against it.
Yeah. Nobody knew what to think, and certainly, we're going to a comedy show, and all these people have been massacred, and it's a weird time to go laugh about anything at all.
Especially he did the show in Jonestown.
Right.
That was the thing.
I thought that was in poor taste.
Tough room.
Yeah.
I smell flesh. I don't know how they even died. What did they drink? What were they drinking the Kool-Aid?
So, supposedly he comes out, and I don't know if he was doing the Gilbert voice then or not, but this is a long time ago.
I think he always kind of did.
Did he always? I don't know.
I can't believe we all missed the 2-drink minimum bit there.
A 2-drink minimum.
2-drink maximum.
No.
Jonestown, tough room.
2 poison.
2-drink maximum.
I'm really killing the night. So he comes out and he says, supposedly, and forgive me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but the way I know this story is that he comes out and he says, well, the Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco, I grew up in San Francisco, which I don't think he did. And again, this could be all wrong. But the point is he did do this joke. He said, like Janis Joplin played here. And I came here as a young teenager, and I saw Janis Joplin play here, and I actually became friends with her, and I met her, and we hung out, and I was actually with Janis when she died. And I held her in my arms as Janis died. So to be here at the Fillmore, it's very powerful. It's a very emotional thing for me. I saw Jimi Hendrix play her. I became friends with Jimi Hendrix. I was with Jimi Hendrix the night that Jimi Hendrix died. I held Jimi Hendrix in my arms as he died. I just got back from Jonestown. Boy, are my arms tired.
Yeah, fuck those people at Jonestown. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I go too far?
They knew what they signed up
They
for.
knew, yes.
But Eric, I'll pull up the quotes. Did you ever see that thing Eric Idle wrote about about how comics are licensed jesters, and that they should always have the freedom, and it should be sanctioned by everybody that they have the ability to be seditious and to be.
Well, the trouble is that
critical.
in the world where jesters come from, you were vetted. So with capitalism, everyone's a comic. Right. It's like open mic night, and then some guy gets up. We've all seen some horrible shit. I did stand up for all of a couple of years before I gave up because I was bad and didn't have the discipline to do it. But I was at the Safe House in Milwaukee with this guy that he was a juggler, and he was juggling like machetes and like. They were, I guess they weren't sharp machetes, but they were fucking metal, and one of them just flew out into the audience and like almost hit a lady, and he didn't apologize, which I think you should always do when you almost machete someone, and she's like, whoa, and she was being relative to almost being macheted a good sport. And she was like, and I guess the machete kind of like went sort of like in the area of like where it landed. I guess he saw the opportunity in that it like landed kind of between her legs. And so he made the joke as he picked it up. He's like, too bad it didn't go 6 inches further to keep you from reproducing. And then kept juggling.
Now that's funny, folks. Come on.
So like I just like that, when I think about whether or not we should all be knighted for speaking our mind, like we're the defenders of all this stuff. I was like, I always remember that guy. I was like, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's very nervous. He's throwing knives around.
Right.
And when he fucks up throwing knives around, which is already bad enough, his mind leaps
goes to
female circumcision or whatever he's like thinking.
I wish that had cracked your vagina in half.
Thank God to remove you from the gene pool.
Tough room.
Anyways, so
tough room.
That's
not me. It's the machete guy.
So yeah, we don't get that jester status. However, comedy in general, when you're talking about comedy as a river, what should the pH level of that river be? I think it should be primarily toxic. I think there should be a causticity to things that get dipped in that river.
But unless people like someone like Brian Regan, who I think is hilarious, his mind doesn't work that. What? His mind doesn't work that way. So I wouldn't call that caustic.
No. You don't have to be. Oh my God, please. Yeah, I'm sorry. You don't have to be caustic as a comedian. That's my whole point. I think of that kid like throwing knives, and I go like, he should not be protected.
Right, exactly.
By
the comedian rule.
I also on the other side of the spectrum, a huge thing that is violated is that everybody by default thinks you have to be mean to be funny, and there are so many wonderful, warm, sincere people who are truly funny because of their love of everyone around them. And they
you got Bill Cosby.
Oh, that is inappropriate.
Oh no.
There's things to be joked about, and there's things that should be kept in a small box, locked away. Shame on you.
But yes, you're right. What I said. I mean, I think there's an obligation of comedy that it needs to be. I guess. Let me just skip to my bottom line and my agenda is. I just don't think you should be that popular. I don't think you should be that buddy with the city hall and the guess who's coming in tonight? It's the president of the school. Yay, I'm on the student council. And it's like, okay, you're probably not doing comedy then. There's a really good chance of that.
Well, Fallon's a perfect example because and Leno was a perfect example. Like you can't yes, it worked for Johnny Carson when he was the only show on the air. He felt like he didn't want to go too far in either direction, politically. Mm-hmm. That's fine. He was Johnny Carson. He was hilarious. But for Jay Leno to say that he said to comedians, you shouldn't have a point of view because you're going to alienate half the crowd. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so it's like, before we were talking about the Charlie Hebdo and everybody upset. That's why there's people like Jimmy Fallon right now, because the uncomfortable things are hard to talk to, and so the people just want a clown who does a potato sack race.
The irony is because comedy actually, comedy has become it has become the only powerful tool left because politics have gone into the shitter. Everyone's lying when they're breathing. Everyone is so jaded and everything. The people that make you laugh, people are getting their news from the Daily Show for 15 years, and I don't even say that like our country's signing the shitter. It's like I got my new. Jon Stewart became Walter Cronkite. He was the only one, and it was like because comedy was the only thing that could be trusted. That's so weird.
Don't pretend you know who Walter Cronkite was. Jesus Christmas.
But ironically, with that comes, oh my God, that person said something that is not on Logan's Run point. With like whether or not Soylent Green is this or whether it's people. I know I'm mixing movies and metaphors. That's the irony of comedy's like emergence from all this other shit as like a trusted platform. It's like we actually need the people that make us laugh so bad now that will like hashtag cancel Colbert because the guy that runs his Twitter feed accidentally non-contextually ruined one of his jokes.
And people were so upset about it. But I'll give you an example of with the Adam Carolla thing. It's like Adam Carolla, if you listen to some of his bits where he says Mexicans have no culture, they're coming up here to get our culture, cab drivers, why do you think cab drivers don't pick up black people? Maybe they know something about black people that you don't know. Those are not jokes. So I'm even willing to accept that Adam Carolla was, I never was a huge fan, but when he was on Loveline, whatever, he could be funny. But that doesn't, maybe he could be funny. But now when he's just spewing racism, he can't hide behind the fact that he's a comic to justify what he's saying.
Right, and so it's good that we're moving into this age where we can like detect that shit and call it out. But it's like, well, it's I mean,
What ruins people's lives?
well, he said not when it ruins people's lives.
Like whose lives?
Well, I don't.
Adam Carolla?
I don't want to. No, he's not worried about Adam Carolla's life. No, I'm assuming that kid's worried about, like, for instance, like, and I don't. No one's defending this lady, but the African AIDS joke lady.
Oh yeah, those things are sad. Those things. I think those things are sad when someone says something.
She's not even a comedian,
right? So yeah, I agree
200
with you.
followers. She's got a bad sense of humor. Like I don't even know if she was being ironic with that joke. Like I might have made that joke on a bad day. I don't know. Like out of white guilt,
you're right.
you know. Like oh, I'm going to Africa. Don't worry about me because I'm white. Like parentheses. I feel bad that I live in a world where an entire continent is our sewer and we don't give it any federal aid and we're like you know like maybe that's what she meant. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's the Schadenfreude thing though. Too people gang up on people.
Well, I think we're like a baby like finding out.
Why'd she say that? Why'd she say that?
Well, I think it was just more the thrill of, and it's thrilling for everybody. It's just sort of like, you find out that this arm you have can like grab things, and so a baby's like just reach out for your face. Like if a baby could suddenly muster the strength of a human being, like a lot of people would lose their noses. I think that's probably where that joke comes from. Like babies believe it's possible to get your nose, and they don't mind trying. Like, but their muscles are putty, so they're just like, you know, baby just reaches out, grabs your nose as hard as it fucking can, and yanks. It's like, I wonder if I could pull this fucking thing off his face.
I just don't think that ever is the baby's
That's the
internal
internet.
dialogue. What's up with this guy's face?
So like everybody, so that lady made that AIDS joke, and
Walking around with that big nose on his face.
somebody kind of for fun, like I saw a really funny joke once when it was like, I think this happened on Twitter, like when there was some astronaut going into space or something, and he was like, this was some retired astronaut that was going up into space again for like some kind of nostalgic space run, and he was like an astronaut in the 70s, and then he was going back up again for some PR reason or something, or maybe he was needed up there. I don't know.
He forgot his keys.
He left his golf ball. He's like, "Where's my Titleist?" And then somebody, I think it was a tweet. It was when Twitter was first starting. Like somebody tweeted, "Quick, while he's in space, everybody put an ape mask on." So like. That is the exact same principle that happened with this woman. She made this shitty joke, and she got on an airplane for Africa, and basically somebody made the joke of like, hey, while she's in the air, let's make her famous. Let's make her shitty joke that didn't land famous. And she got off the plane in Africa and was like, wow, you're bigger than Tom Cruise. Good job on that AIDS joke, you fucking dingbat. And it's I think that everybody, every step of the way in that process probably has at least 90% of the best intentions. But the collective emergence...
Well, how about those people, did you hear about those guys? They were like 70-year-old guys, and they're driving a hearse. And they had a veteran in there, and I guess the guy ran in to get they had to drive for 7 hours, so they ran in and got a donut, and then this guy came out and said, "You're never supposed to leave a hearse." And these guys were in their 70s. They got fired. They got fired because, yes, they were probably wrong, but it's, in other words, like...
Why aren't you supposed to leave a hearse?
Because you're supposed to, because if it's a veteran, and even in general with the hearses... You're never supposed
Even
to.
In general, with the
you're
hearses.
never supposed to stop. You're not supposed to stop at a buffet and then get back in. But and if you do,
I guess
if
it
you
seems
do,
tacky, but
if you do, you're supposed to pull around and pull. These guys are in their 70s. The guy's online. He's saying, I have no money. I'm going to starve now. Why was it that important for the other guy to expose this person? That really is Twitter and social networking. It's like when the whole Woody Allen thing was happening. People hated me because I was saying, you read a Vanity Fair article? I mean, thank God that the court of public opinion is not an actual court. You literally have never heard anything about this case, but you're basing your opinion on a Vanity... I would just...
Well, people get... Yeah, I mean, we get very excited. Like the people, when there's like a little kid that's murdered, and then there's all of us who are like, man, little kids shouldn't be murdered. I am against child's getting murdered.
He is stipulating that before he does something another.
And then there's the people who drive from out of state and like stand on the edge of the lawn with like pictures of dead babies and hold them up and go like, I know you're a murderer, get out of there. Like that that person is doing
Put that anywhere. 1983.
That person's doing that because it's hard to feel like a hero. It's like that's not running on tap in your house feeling like a hero. And so when you read in the papers that like, you know, something that's real easy to get behind happened or get behind against, we react. It's a sign of the fact that we're being deprived a healthy amount of mythology and self-satisfaction in our day-to-day lives. Like we're not going to bed at night feeling like we're good people. So like something happens on the news that's like this kid got abducted and murdered, and it's like some people are like, that is so fucked up. That's so fucked up. What is this? Like no one else knows that's fucked up. Cool down, Steve. No, it's fucking. You don't understand. It's a fucking kid, and he's crying. I was like, what happened to Steve? Steve. Well, I'll tell you. Steve's been working for 8 years at Verizon, and he's itching for a fucking sword to pull out of a stone, and that should be a human right to feel like you're a good guy.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I hate this guy. I've never liked this guy, Jake Tapper. I'm obsessed with these horrible pundits. So Jake Tapper, the Democrats, it's the Democratic Party, so I don't want to get into that thing where they call them Democrats. But it's called The Democrats is their website, their Twitter thing. So they said they put out a thing, Happy Memorial Day, and then it's Obama holding an ice cream cone or whatever. And so Jake Tapper goes, respectfully, I don't believe that was an appropriate image. For who in the hell is him? No better way to celebrate to memorialize Memorial Day than to criticize how other people are celebrating it. I mean, what kind of that to me is so disgusting that's what he's going to do. He's more respectful of the dead people.
We have to remember the brave men and women of the Greatest Generation who charged Normandy's Instagrams and really critiqued them, laid down their handles and said, "This is in bad taste. Take that, Hitler." That's how we won the war. Is by knowing when people were bad and saying so in a comment.
It's terrible. Why are you for? You have to be the guy who's for all these things. Why are you defending everything that we're talking about? Why do you want the Hearse people to lose their job?
Yeah. Why do you want?
Why do you want the AIDS lady? She's not the AIDS lady. Is she?
She's the AIDS.
That's what she should have done. Toured as the AIDS lady.
Yeah.
She probably is.
Every 10 minutes, the crowd loses its sense of humor completely.